The Gaza war rages on as the IDF continues to eliminate key Hamas terror figures and infrastructure, and Hamas continues rocket fire. It's been a busy week on Israel's other borders as well, with the IDF striking Syrian terror targets and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Let's take a look at the latest updates. Ynet reports that Israeli forces continue to intensify operations across multiple fronts, with over 150 Hamas terrorists eliminated in Gaza this week alone. According to the IDF, the targeted strikes included high-ranking commanders and terror cells operating within civilian infrastructure, including mosques, residences, and a school. IDF ground troops also uncovered massive tunnel networks used by Hamas, including a 330-foot tunnel stretching beneath the Hamad city complex in Khan Yunis. Inside, soldiers found explosives, ammunition, and intelligence material. This afternoon, Hamas also fired 2 rockets towards southern Israel. One was intercepted and one landed in Zimrat, less than 100 meters from a kindergarten full of children. No injuries were reported. In Lebanon, the IDF carried out airstrikes against Hezbollah targets, including military structures, rocket launchers, and anti-tank units. Tensions also remain high in Syria, where Israel targeted Iranian-backed militants following rocket fire towards the Golan Heights. Meanwhile, in the Red Sea, Yemen's Houthi terrorists claimed they fired a ballistic missile at IDF targets early this morning. The missile was intercepted by the U.S.-led coalition outside of Israeli airspace. Israeli officials stress the IDF pressure will continue until all hostages are released and Hamas's terror infrastructure is dismantled. And now here to speak with us about the situation in Gaza is Brigadier General Amir Avivi of the IDSF. Brigadier General Avivi, thank you for joining us today. Now, the IDF is continuing strikes in Gaza, but we've also seen a proposal to take land for every hostage harmed. Is this a strategy that can actually yield results in dealing with Hamas?
I believe so, because I think that the only thing that Hamas is really deterred about is land. They don't care about people. They don't care about the Gazans. They only care about the land. So if we want to keep our hostages alive and make sure they don't touch them, this is a very, very good way to threaten them. And we should go through with the threat. If they touch any living hostage, Israel should annex areas in the Gaza Strip.
And why is this only something being discussed now? I mean, it seems like, based on what you're saying, if this is the only thing that Hamas cares about, why wasn't this something proposed before as a negotiating tactic at the very least?
Well, I think that this is due to the change of administration and the policies of President Trump. The moment President Trump talked about relocating the Gazans, the moment he started talking about building something else in Gaza, and even the U.S. taking over Gaza. I think this is really a new reality that enables Israel to pursue new strategies we couldn't do with the previous administration.
Well, right now we see that the U.S. is demanding that Egypt take in some of these Gazans, as you mentioned, but of course Egypt is reluctant to do so. They always have been. If they do cave to this demand, what impacts will that have on the IDF operations inside of Gaza?
So obviously, when you operate, the less citizens are around, it's easier to operate. So if the Egyptians are willing to absorb hundreds of thousands of Gazans, this is very meaningful. It's also meaningful for the Gazans. I mean, it's unprecedented that in a war zone, people cannot go out. I mean, imagine if in Ukraine, the countries in Europe would have blocked the borders and Ukrainians couldn't go out. Millions of Ukrainians left voluntarily. Nobody should push them outside of Ukraine. They didn't want to be in a war zone. So do the Gazans. The Gazans don't want to be in a war zone. Many of them want to relocate at this stage, and Egypt is blocking them, and this is an inhuman thing to do. They should open the border and let them go out.
Absolutely. Now, what is the end goal for Gaza, for Israel now? Is the only security solution essentially a full occupation, or could that even worsen the situation in Gaza?
Well, the end game militarily has been defined on the 7th of October, when the state of Israel decided that the goals of war are to eradicate Hamas as a governmental and military entity, to bring back all the hostages and make sure that never again there will be a terror army in Gaza. there is only one realistic way to achieve this. This is conquering the Gaza Strip, destroying Hamas completely, as a military and as a governmental entity, and then pushing forward Trump's plan to relocating the Gazans. I believe not all of them will be relocated, and therefore we need a new solution. The government of Israel is saying crystal clear, the day after Hamas, there will be no Hamas, no Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and also not the Palestinian Authority. So the only real choice is working with local clans. And by the way, we see demonstrations all over the Gaza Strip. Some of these demonstrations are led by clans who are saying, that's it, we want a change. We understand that Hamas is not the future. They understand that the IDF is going in at a certain point. The IDF will launch a decisive attack on Gaza. The next time there is a full-scale attack on Gaza, it will be also the last time. And they understand that. They understand that it's imminent, it will happen, and now they're considering again what they should do, and they understand that there won't be Hamas at the end of the day.
Now, there are some Israelis that have expressed concern that the resumption of this war could endanger the fate of the remaining hostages, particularly the living hostages. We are almost out of time, but I want to get your response to this. Why is it necessary for the IDF to continue this war militarily right now?
So the only realistic way to release the hostages is amount military pressure. Israel is not giving up the hostages. Israel intends to bring back all of them, all the hostages, but you cannot achieve this without military pressure. Look, Gilad Shalit was a hostage 5.5 years. We're not going to agree to a reality that they have hostages for 5 years. Why did it stay 5 years? There was no military pressure. So the moment we started the war and started applying military pressure, then they started releasing hostages. Now that we started attacking Gaza, they're back discussing the issue of releasing hostages. And the more pressure we mount, the better are the chances to release hostages. And when we threaten them that if they touch the hostages, we'll annex areas, I think this is a pretty good way to try and ensure, and there is no 100%, we're talking about monsters, to keep our hostages alive until we manage to release them.
All right, well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you, Brigadier General Amir Avivi.
My pleasure.
And in somewhat of a surprising development coming out of Beit Lahia in the north of the Gaza Strip, hundreds of Gazan civilians, actually thousands now, marched in a protest dubbed Intifada of the North, chanting to remove Hamas from leadership and even demanding the release of Israeli hostages. We have more from ILTV's Devil Klein.
Massive crowds of Gazans were drawn to the Indonesian hospital in northern Gaza to protest against Hamas rule. In Beit Lahia, where fighting resumed just last week, the sentiment of the civilians in Gaza is crystal clear. They are done with Hamas. White flags were seen in the crowds as the masses chanted to end the war, demanding the release of Israeli hostages as they recognize it to be a crucial step in ending the war. Video footage shows hundreds marching and chanting to oust Hamas, which has been ruling the Gaza Strip since Israel's disengagement in 2005. In the video here, Gazans can be heard shouting criticism at the press. One protester asked, "Where is Al Jazeera?" a Qatari-funded news channel that is largely supportive of Hamas.
كما تشاهدون الناس عامة الناس تسأل عن أنس شريف مراسل قناة الجزيرة مراسل قناة الجزيرة عامة الشعب لا يريد قناة الجزيرة ها هم
However, not everyone is buying it. Activists took to Twitter to remind those who may have forgotten the Gazan support for Hamas on October 7th. Shouts of Allahu Akbar and praise for Hamas was undeniable as Israeli hostages were paraded through the city. Are the tides changing in Gaza, or is this crowd a minority? Only time will tell.
And now here to speak with us about this rare sight in Gaza and break it down for us is Itamar Marcus of the Palestinian Media Watch. Itamar, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you here at ILTV. What's your initial reaction to the scenes in Gaza now of these hundreds of Palestinians protesting against Hamas?
Well, the first thing that has to be recognized is that they're not protesting what Hamas did on October 7th. They're not protesting the atrocities. They're not protesting the murder, the rape, and the taking of hostages. All the polls at the time showed that the entire Gazan population, 98% of them were proud, 71% supported it. What's happening now is they've suffered so much. So that no matter how happy they were about October 7th, they can't be happy about October 8th and onward. So that this is not a rejection of killing Israelis. It's a rejection of Hamas because they're irresponsible. And I'll give you some interesting points to think about. The Palestinian Authority has been critical of Hamas in the last few months for allowing the war to continue, and they've been telling Hamas, you should return the rest of the hostages and let the war end and let the people of Gaza stop suffering. So this is what's going on in the PA world now. Even from the Palestinian Authority and even from those in the West Bank, what they're saying is, we've had enough suffering, you accomplished what you did on October 7th, it was a great day, but it's time to end it, and you must end it, even if it means losing your power.
Now, we know the people of Gaza have really done nothing to assist our hostages since October 7th. Is this an opportunity for some kind of change? And even if the public opinion about Israel hasn't changed inside Gaza, how can Israel use this to improve the situation overall, or can they?
Well, if the situation gets bad enough, then the people will be turning to Israelis for help. Right now, Israel has been perceived as someone who gave them help because we were forced to by the international community. We allowed in humanitarian aid. If the situation gets bad enough, they might recognize that actually Israel is not their enemy, and that Israel could actually be someone who they live beside. But we're talking here about a massive change in ideology that would take not just weeks, but would take months and years to accomplish.
Now, one of the interesting things that we've heard from these protesters just a few seconds ago in this broadcast were chants against Al Jazeera, which has played such a large role in disinformation during this war. What do you make of this? I mean, the fact they'll cover anything where they can blame Israel, but never Palestinians against Hamas.
Al Jazeera is the voice to the world for Hamas. Hamas needs a PR campaign to cover its terror, and that's what Al Jazeera was for them. And not only does Israel say this, and not only does Israel know this, but the Palestinian Authority knows this. The Palestinian Authority prohibited Hamas, prohibited Al Jazeera from broadcasting from the West Bank long before Israel prohibited it, because they were promoting Hamas propaganda against the Palestinian Authority. Now, since the war started, it's been Hamas propaganda against Israel. But it's not just propaganda. They also make Hamas seem good. They make them seem nice. They make them seem good to their people, humanitarian. And the people now are disgusted with this. They want the world to know what Hamas is, really what it is, because right now it's just a matter of life or death. They want Hamas out of there.
Now, there's been a debate for many years, actually, about the ability of Gazans to revolt against Hamas. We know how they brutally execute Palestinians who work against them. How far can the people of Gaza take this? I mean, is Hamas going to crack down on these masses of people as well? How many Gazans are really complicit with Hamas versus how many are actually victims of Hamas?
What's interesting is they could both at the same time be victims of Hamas and complicit with Hamas. A lot of them probably feel that the suffering is worth it because Hamas it represents a religious ideology that they believe in, and the suffering is going to do them wonderful things, give them wonderful rewards in paradise, that as Hamas has been promising them. So a lot of them probably do believe that, but they're reaching the point where the suffering is so great. Now, the question is, and your important question you did ask is, will they have enough power to really do something about Hamas. Right now, the Hamas fighters are hiding on the ground. They're not even confronting the Israeli soldiers, which is why the people can actually go out and do these demonstrations. I think what will happen is if we go into a period of a ceasefire for a number of months where Israel is getting hostages released in exchange for ceasefire, during that period, Hamas is going to go out from their tunnels and they're going to go after all the people who they've seen on TV critical of Hamas, and they're going to make them pay for what they said. And at that point, when Israel has withdrawn from the combat, there's nothing we can do. We can't go after the Hamas people. So it actually might indirectly encourage Hamas to come and reach an agreement to release hostages, because then they'll have an opportunity to punish all those demonstrators who've been causing them such a bad, giving them such bad PR coming from Gaza.
All right, well, we will be following this story closely, but unfortunately today we're out of time, so I want to thank you for joining us today, Itamar Marcus from Palestinian Media Watch.
Thank you.
Well, over the last few days, 2 female hostages who were released from captivity began to share their stories of sexual violence and abuse they experienced while in Gaza. ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian is in Hostage Square with more details. Shosh, what can you tell us?
Emily, we know that sexual violence and abuse was well documented by Israelis after October 7th happened, and we know that events happened of sexual violence at the Nova Music Festival on the Kibbutzim, and of course now we're hearing more testimonies come out about hostages who endured this type of trauma while they were in captivity. Just this week, 2 former female hostages are sharing their stories for the world to hear the truth. Ilana Gritsatski was kidnapped from her home on Kibbutz Nir Oz with her partner Matan Zenkauker on October 7th. In a recent New York Times article, Gritsatski is sharing her detailed account of her abduction into Gaza and time in captivity. The 31-year-old tells the New York Times her captors beat and molested her as they drove into Gaza, as she was trapped between 2 terrorists on a motorcycle with a sheet on her head. She said the men pressed her leg into the exhaust pipe, burning her, and the terrorists sitting behind her groped her, touching her breasts, under her shirt and legs. Kidnapped alone, she said she passed out on the way there and woke up in Gaza, surrounded by gunmen, half naked and terrified. She describes herself laying on the floor in a building in Gaza with her shirt up above her, exposing her breasts with her pants pulled down, and 7 terrorists standing over her. Gritsatski was released in November of 2023, around the same time former hostage Mia Shem was also released. This week, Shem told Channel 12 in Israel when she was released from Gaza and was getting medical treatment at Sheba Hospital, she asked for a pregnancy test. She told the TV station when she was kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival and brought into Gaza, she passed out in the bathroom and woke up in a bed in different clothes and without underwear on. She said the terrorists constantly reminded her of what they saw. She also said she did not get her menstrual cycle for the duration of her captivity, which was 2 months, because she lost so much blood after a poor operation she endured in a Gaza hospital because she was shot in the arm during her abduction. She tested negative at the hospital and said, quote, "I found out I wasn't pregnant and a stone was lifted from my heart." Both Mia Shem and Ilana continue to protest for the release of the remaining hostages still in Hamas captivity at this time. Ilana, of course, has been trying to get her partner, Matan Zenkauker, out of Hamas captivity. He is believed to be one of the 24 hostages still alive at this time. Emily?
All right, thank you, Shosh, for that update. Are you ready to hear from the minds behind Israel's tech revolution? Don't miss Breaking the Code, a live virtual event that will take place tomorrow. Join ILTV and Afeka College of Engineering for exclusive insights from industry giants like Uri Levine, the founder of Waze, and Eugene Kandel of the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. Learn how Israel is shaping the future through education, innovation, and unstoppable engineering talent. This is your front row seat to what's next. Register now by scanning the QR code on your screen. And Israel has approved its 2025 budget, focusing on defense, economic growth, and social welfare, with key allocations aimed at strengthening the country's future.
Israel's 2025 budget has been finalized, with key allocations aimed at addressing economic growth, security, and social welfare. The government has emphasized increased funding for defense, infrastructure, and cost of living relief. The budget, totaling over 600 billion shekels, includes significant investments in housing, public transportation and technology sectors, with the aim of bolstering economic resilience and innovation. In addition, new tax incentives have been introduced to encourage foreign investment and ease financial burdens on middle-class families. According to government statements, the budget is designed to strengthen Israel's economy while ensuring that essential services remain accessible to all citizens, with a focus on sustainable growth and long-term prosperity. One of the most debated aspects of the budget is the allocation of funds to security and defense, with a substantial increase to support military operations and national preparedness. Critics argue that while security is crucial, more should be done to address social issues like housing shortages and education reform. Opposition leaders have voiced concerns over rising public debt and the long-term impact of current spending decisions. However, government officials maintain that the budget strikes the right balance between national security and economic stability. With the budget now approved, its impact will soon be felt across the country. The coming months will determine whether these financial measures succeed in strengthening Israel's economy and improving daily life for its citizens.
Archaeologists in the Judean desert have uncovered a 2,200-year-old pyramid-like structure, offering new insights into the region's ancient history, with the discovery including rare artifacts from the Hellenistic period.
In the heart of the Judean desert near Nachal Tzohar, an extraordinary archaeological discovery is unfolding. A massive pyramid-shaped structure that has baffled experts and redefined our understanding of ancient history. The structure, standing at about 6 meters high, was built with hand-hewn stones, some weighing hundreds of kilograms. Dating back approximately 2,200 years, this monumental find is shedding new light on the Hellenistic period, when Ptolemaic and Seleucid rulers controlled the land. Initially thought to be a tomb, further investigation has revealed that the structure was likely a fortress or tower, possibly designed to guard a key trade route linking Edom and Gaza. It may have also played a role in collecting taxes from travelers. Alongside the pyramid, a wealth of artifacts has been uncovered. These include Greek papyrus scrolls, bronze coins from the Ptolemaic and Seleucid periods, and wooden tools, all preserved thanks to the dry climate of the desert.
היובש הקיצוני שימר פה את הדברים בצורה מדהימה. אנחנו מוצאים פרטי פפירוסים, כל מיני כלי עץ מדהימים, כל מיני סלים וחבלים שלא מוצאים בשום מקום אחר.
ממש אפשר לזהות אותיות כנראה ביוונית. מאוד מאוד מרגש למצוא משהו שבמצב שימור נפלא.
This excavation is part of an 8-year effort led by the Israel Antiquities Authority to protect and preserve antiquities in the region from looting and natural degradation. Volunteers from across Israel have been invited to participate in this groundbreaking project, contributing to the discovery of rare items and artifacts. As the excavation continues, more answers are expected to emerge. What is clear, however, is the enormous historical significance of this site. The discoveries are reshaping our understanding of the Judean desert's role in ancient times. With Passover approaching, Israelis are invited to join this journey of discovery in the Judean desert, where history comes to life. In a time of challenge, the excavation offers a unifying and uplifting experience for all.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of around 17 degrees Celsius or 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see more cloudy skies alongside steady temperatures, seeing highs of about 29 degrees Celsius or 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, and thank you for watching.